Welcome back to Mother Hubbard's. I was actually coming out to film some B-roll, and it reminded me that I have a video on there showing like the status of the farm and nursery kind of before we got started going. And so I rewatched that, of course, and I'm like, you know what? Although that's not a video that got a ton of views, and I know this one is not going to be like, this isn't going to get a million YouTube videos, but doing this sort of video is one, it's accountability. Two, if you are looking into getting into this kind of business, there's a ton of stuff that happens in the back end, stuff that's not glamorous, right? So I thought, it'd be great to kind of cover some of that. Maybe not glamorous, but it's reality. And that's one thing that I like doing. If you scroll through some of my older videos, I had a skincare business. I made soaps, lotions, all that stuff. And the channel sat idle for a long time. When I decided to do this, I just continued on on that channel. I should have created one from scratch because I kind of screwed up my algorithm a little bit, but so be it. If you're interested in that stuff, you can look at my older videos. But I've always kind of liked sharing and teaching what I know. And that some people find that very helpful. Some people just find it interesting. So that's where we're at. If you like this kind of content, stick with me. If not, you can bounce off. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm well aware that this is not the most entertaining content. Now, out in my flower field, it's getting very, very tired. Probably only going to be open this coming weekend and then call it quits for the season. Now, the dahlias are cooking and booking, but I do have some that are looking a little tired. Some of them are just coming into bloom. This has been the weirdest growing season, hands down. We're in 2025 here. It is October. It's exceptionally warm for October, but I can tell the trees already know it's October, right? So less sunlight during the day, all that kind of adds up. So as far as the flower farm goes, I may do a flower bar this weekend and just come out early, pick everything, put it in buckets, and let people make their own bouquets that way. Because there's a lot of plants that are just tired and sad looking, and I'd like to start getting a cover crop in. So that'll be it until next season. Now, as far as the nursery goes, it's the time of year where I want to pot things up, and I've been doing that. And there's a huge mess over by the shed area there of empty pots, things. I have to figure out how to organize this because a lot of nurseries, you'll just see piles and piles of pots. And I'm a total type B personality, don't get me wrong, but that drives me insane. I don't like it. We get a lot of wind here in Northwest Indiana, and they're going to be all over this property if I don't secure them and get them kind of, tucked away nice and neat. But it is also the time of the year where you propagate plants. So that'll be all this going on in the nursery. I'm considering doing a bare root tree sale the end of October, beginning of November, because fall is actually the best time to plant a tree, like when they're dormant. But yeah, I got a lot on my plate, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so in this area is where we had a shed that we were going to move. It got moved, yay. I was totally worried that it was going to fall into pieces because sheds don't like to be moved, but we had some Amish guys come out and move it, and they were awesome. So that mess needs to be dealt with. Don't know what to do with it. We've already hauled 3 10-yard dumpsters out of here. Yeah, but that is going to get contended with. I want to get this whole area cleaned up because we're going to be utilizing this building. There's a ton of history in this building, and I do mean a ton. The name Mother Hubbard's actually came from my husband's grandparents. They owned a fruit stand, actually at the end of this road. This was the building where they made their living for decades. We named our business Mother Hubbard's to honor his grandmother and his grandfather. This is actually the property that his grandparents farmed for years. And over the years, it got handed down to generation, and now it's in our hands. Now there's significantly less property than what they had when they were farming. But yeah, the 6 acres we have now is kind of what's left. Now in an older video I showed how packed this thing was. But there's a hole in the roof there. I put some of our pots in here, but this is just crammed full of with just junk. And we've made progress. Let's go inside. So it's like way emptier. We do have some stuff still in here, but it's way more organized. We have to rip these walls out, clean the studs. Like, I know there's critters living in there, okay? And I don't want, just for safety, we're gonna rip all that out, insulate it, and put new walls up. I'm thinking about maybe some reclaimed barnwood to make this more of a country, homey feel. Because we're going to be offering some farm products outside just our flowers and nursery. This building was hauled here in the 80s. I think it was 85 when his grandparents closed their business. And, you know, everything is as it was left. So there's actually tongue and groove hardwood floor in here. We have some plywood that we have in here just kind of stacked to keep it flat for now. But as the weather turns and we close up the nursery business, this is, I think, the next project I want to tackle. We also have to level this building. It's kind of cattywampus. Gives you a very like funhouse feeling when you're standing in here. But yeah, I want to get this cleaned up, sanitized, insulated. There's some wiring running here, but I'm just going to put new wiring in just, again, for safety's sake. We've already dumped $4,000 into this tractor and the hydraulics don't work. So it's going to be another $2,000 at least in parts and labor to fix the hydraulics. I think we may end up selling this to a collector. But this area, I think I would like to make the porch like a wraparound porch, just for more room to, you know, have things and decorations, stuff for the customers. I'm really looking forward to reviving this. And part of me, like the practical part of me, is like, it would be cheaper just to build a 10 by 12 little structure that's brand new and looks great. But there's history here. I want to honor Noah and Nona Hubbard because without them, none of this would exist, right? And their sacrifice and their hard work has given us an opportunity to kind of carry that torch and maybe even pass it down to the next generation. We'll see. Now, this back 2 acres just officially became ours last month. And as you can see, there is a ton of black locust. Now, black locust can be a very good nitrogen fixer. And I don't want to mislead anybody and say it's a horrible plant, but it's incredibly invasive. It roots by seeds that drop, and it also roots through the rhizomes. And we had this completely plowed up and tilled and cleared out. And as you can see, we are being invaded. Our wonderful neighbor brush hogged a path for us and for them. We kind of share access in our properties. Brand new owners next door. They're very nice people, and we're blessed because that could have become it almost became a garage to fix cars, and yeah, I'm glad they bought it. Anyway, but locust dulls blades. I had already reclaimed probably 20 feet, coming through, literally hand clipping it and digging up roots and then smoothing the ground out and keeping it mowed. But, you know, there's just not enough hours in the day. So this winter time, as soon as everything goes dormant, we're going to just start ripping and tearing into this. But let me grab a branch here. I don't know if you can see or not, but there are thorns all over locust. And it doesn't matter what gloves you wear, this stuff is sharp and hard and pierces through everything. This is one small patch of trees. You can imagine how many times you're going to get thorned. So this is not fun stuff to work with. 2 acres of very thorny trees is a lot to take on. But I do have a perennial crop that I want to start getting established. It takes about 3 to 5 years. And no, it's not fruit trees. But I have a perennial crop that I want to start. I already have some started. I have some cuttings, growing roots, that I'll be planting out in the spring, providing that they root. It's not normal to take summer cuttings, but I did it anyway. But in order to plant that, I have to get rid of some of that area. I want to start next year having the harvest host campers here. And that's not setting my establishment up as a campground. That's just allowing people interested in staying somewhere safe in their camper overnight, maybe taking a tour of your farm, and that's how that works. So no, we're not setting this up as a campground. I have no interest in being a full-time campground. So in this back 2 acres, I really love to dig another small pond. I don't know if that's going to happen, and not in the next 18 months. I mean, there's a lot to do. I'd like to have actually several small ponds around the property. We have a very high water table here. And there's a lot of properties around here with just natural spring ponds that popped up. The primary reason is wildlife. Ponds help the wildlife have a safe place to drink. Birds, bees, everything. I do my current pond, especially in the bog. Birds constantly use it as a bird bath. I see dragonflies and honeybees and bumblebees going in to get a drink because there's rocks that they can grip onto, and they don't have to worry about drowning. So I'm all about creating a habitat for the wildlife. I don't use pesticides or herbicides, anything. The only thing that I use, only biological control I use is BT, neem oil, diatomaceous earth, things that are not going to be harmful to me, to the honeybees, just to pollinators in general. That is extremely important to me. Now, the term regenerative ag and organic, and I mean, it all gets bastardized over time. I'm a steward of this property. It is my responsibility to keep this property as healthy as possible. I can't control all the rest of the world around me, but I have control here. And here, we're not going to use any of that. We have apple scab on every tree here. I don't know it all. So I commented on Stefan Sokoviak's YouTube channel and said, "Hi, I have apple scab. I've tried everything. Compost, sprays, like anything that I could think of." And he told me to use azomite. So I'll link this down below in case you have the same problem. It's basically volcanic ash dust, rock dust. Now the apples taste fine. They're absolutely taste fine. But if you like to preserve or bake or any of that, if you're doing more than just peeling it and eating it, apple scab does not affect the apple. It's safe to eat, but it's ugly. It's hard to peel. If you're into canning and preserving, there's a lot of divots in there. It's hard to make sure everything's sanitary. It's a real problem. And it's a disease in the tree, and it's caused by a lack of cobalt, from my understanding. I've been researching this for 5 years, and finally I decided to comment on one of his videos and ask. And so we're putting that on this fall, and I will let you know if it works. So this is the shed that we moved. And I'm slowly getting things put away in here and organized. Yeah, it's everything's a challenge. There's just so many empty pots of various sizes, and there's only so much room in there. So again, really important to me to become organized, which I think will help us next spring. You know what I mean? Like, hunting around for stuff is by far, hands down, the biggest time waster that you can have. Which is why, as somebody who's maybe a type B, would benefit from buckling down, type B person here, buckle down and clean and organized so that next year all you have to do is sanitize your pots and get going. Now, that area in front of my Jeep is an absolute mess. Okay, so this has nothing to do with the farm, but it is one more chore that we have to do, our project, I should say. That all has to come out, and we want to landscape around the house. So some of that will get transplanted, but we don't want, that is built up like a couple of feet right up against the house. So we're going to have to take all that out and make sure there's no damage. And also, they buried the gas meter. There's just some things that don't make sense that we're fixing as fast as we can. But yeah, this building, which was once a garage, which is kind of easy to tell. We need to replace those doors and do some renovations inside. Not major renovations, pretty minor. I want to get eventually put a DA kitchen in there, or DX kitchen, whatever, commercial kitchen. And so there's two things I know that I'm going to need to do like right away before I even worry about trying to get inspected. Got to hook up the hot water heater, get a 3-bay stainless steel sink, mop sink, and separate hand washing station. And this will be where I process things in the future. I am planning on the future. So this is probably going to be a winter project because I have too much to do while the weather is still nice. And finally, the last project is to get this area cleaned up. I need to finish potting up some of the perennials. They have reached the maximum room, and the pot. And I don't want to ever sell root bound product, right? So I'm going to give them room so that when they come out of dormancy in the spring, there's plenty of room for those roots to go without crawling out of the pot or getting root bound. So I've been slowly potting things up. I believe this is the last thing I have to do. I'll take one more gander around the nursery, but as soon as this is done, all this is getting cleaned up and put away for the season. My rack actually needs to go into my growing area for seed starting this late winter, early spring. Between our garden for our homestead, the flowers for the flower farm, we start a ton of seed. So it takes a lot of racks and a lot of room. And this spring, or when I start doing that, I'll do videos on it, on what I'm doing in my setup and the lights I use. It's not complicated, but I bootstrap as much stuff as I can, because if you try to do everything, because this can become costly if you don't try to bootstrap as much as you can. Sure, I could buy fancy grow lights. I could absolutely do that, but I don't. I don't buy expensive, fancy grow lights. I only need to start these seeds indoors and let them grow out a little bit until it gets warm enough to stick them in my greenhouse. The greenhouse is also going to need cleaned up and a lot of work. See why I'm doing this video? I have a lot on my plate, and this is kind of accountability. Anyway, I better quit talking and get to work, because as you can see, I have a ton to do. Anyway, I hope this was at least informational or entertaining for some of you that might be looking into some kind of farming or agricultural business. This is not glamorous. This is the backside of the business. This is why farmers are tired. There's always stuff to do. And, we're not in big tractors during harvest time. I mean, we just have a different kind of business, but it's still farming. It's still agriculture. And there's a lot that goes into it. I'm so sorry. It is so noisy this morning. There's a lot that goes into it. And this is kind of the non-glamorous backdrop, if you will. If you're into anything agricultural or the nursery business, go ahead and click that notification bell. You'll be notified the next time we upload a video. And until next time, keep growing strong.